Hey, this is Les from the TV Dudes. This week I was lucky enough to talk to William Jackson Harper, who plays Chidi on NBC's The Good Place, which, if you're not watching, man, just stop listening to this and go watch all of The Good Place and then come back. Alright? Cool. We chatted about the secrecy in filming the show, his Broadway debut, the doctrine of double effect, and just a whole bunch of stuff. It's a great interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Hi, this is Les.
Hi, this is Will Harper.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do the interview. I really appreciate it. I've been loving Good Place. It's just been an amazing show.
Oh, thanks, man.
So you grew up in Dallas, is that right?
I did.
I also grew up in Northeast Texas, about an hour outside of Dallas. I'd always get asked as a kid, like, did I have cows? And
Oh, yeah. Wait, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Paris, Texas.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, probably an hour and a half outside.
Yeah.
What first got you into theater or into acting as a kid in Northeast Texas?
Well, I mean, honestly, my mom made me do it. Because I was kind of shy, and in middle school, she enrolled me in these in the theater electives that we had at my school, and just to sort of like make me, come out of my shell a little bit. And when I realized that it wasn't like, all like pumpkin pants and confessing love and like, shit like that, I actually really took to it. And so I just kind of kept doing it all the way through high school. And then like I actually went to the Texas State Thespian Festival in high school and, auditioned just for fun, just to see what would happen, and actually got a scholarship to study in college. And so I just kind of kept going.
Did your high school do one act?
Yeah, we did the other one act, yeah.
It was always a crazy, intense kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. We, I actually remember, like, the shows we did, like, every year. Like, we did, because, I mean, the format's nuts.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have 40 minutes to take a play and like, to take a full play and make it all fit and make it a full story. And so, yeah, we did Crimes of the Heart in 40 minutes. We did like Rhinoceros in 40 minutes.
Oh,
we did
wow.
this other play. Yeah, we did this other play called The Visit in 40 minutes. And it's like this sort of expressionist, absurdist German stereo comedy, and then we did, I think every school in Texas at some point does The Diviners, and we did that in like 40 minutes. And so, it was, I think a friend of mine said, it was like, how do you get funding for the arts in Texas is, you just take theater and turn it into football. And that's like kind of what they did.
Yeah. High pressure competitive sport theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had heard in an interview that you were watching the pilot episode of Cheers when you got the call about Good Place.
Yeah.
Have you let Ted Danson know that?
Oh yeah. I didn't tell him like the first day of shooting because I didn't want to come off as like a creepo. But I did eventually tell him, and he got a big old kick out of that.
I cannot imagine trying to get through the first week of the pedigree on that show, not just in front of the camera, but Drew Goddard, some of the folks behind it, Mike Schur.
Yeah.
Were you a nerd as a kid? Were you into comics and such?
I was always into comics, but I never really collected or like was like followed. I wasn't like a serious comic collector or follower. I just sort of like had friends that were really into it, and I would just get them to tell me what's going on right now in the Marvel universe or in the DC universe, and then I would occasionally go and like buy some things just to kind of like, just try to like get in, but I just, would always like wind up falling off. But yeah, I've always been a nerd of sorts. I've always been like sort of more of a video game nerd. That was my thing when I was younger.
One of the things I love about Good Place is that in contrast to a lot of stuff now, it's not grimdark. It's not, dystopian horror, even though it's dealing with some stuff that should be. There's an optimism to the show.
Yeah.
Was that something that came through, even in the Innocent Project table read or initial casting? Like, was that optimism there?
Yeah, absolutely. It always felt like a bright, happy show. And it was always like I feel like there's like this overwhelming sense of optimism in a lot of things that Mike Schur creates, which I think is it's really nice right now. I feel like everything is sort of, even the comedies, there's like a twinge of like darkness somewhere, and it's I think it's probably just in reaction to sort of the times we're living in, which are really scary. But I think that our show is a reaction to that reaction, which is, it's like it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a little hope, and I think that, and also, I think there's sometimes it seems as if there's this idea floating around that in order for things to be smart, they have to be tough to digest, and they have to be somewhat dark, because otherwise you're not really taking everything into account to make like maybe the strongest joke or the joke with the most depth. And I think that the writers and the creators of The Good Place have found a way to keep things bright and optimistic and still have some depth, without it coming across as like sort of like and the lesson of today's episode is blank.
Has playing Chidi changed how you view society or view people? Do you find yourself thinking about this stuff more?
A little bit. I share a lot of traits with Chidi in that, like, I am pretty indecisive, and that I do try to do the right thing by people as much as I possibly can, and I try to be honest all the time, except when I think it's just going to destroy someone's heart, and it's like, okay, well, they don't need to know what I think. But like, I do find myself thinking about this sort of stuff a little bit more. And I think it probably puts me in a place of now wondering, like, when people do things that are just actively kind of awful, like, why would that be the choice you would make? I'm more like interested now in sort of understanding the psychology of people who don't care about other people, and I'm trying to understand that.
I always used to wonder, watching Frasier, if Kelsey Grammer, intended for part of his fame to just be everybody's psychiatrist, because I feel like he's got to get walked up to on the street and just have people rattle off stuff about their mom.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're held to a higher ground in arguments and stuff now? Do you feel like people look at you like, no, think that through, man. Come on, Will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, absolutely not. Like my at least friends of mine know that I'm an overthinker, but rather than Chidi will like talk through his thoughts. Me, I just kind of go into some sort of weird catatonic state when I'm really thinking about something, and I just say absolutely nothing. So, a lot of my friends are more, they don't hold me to that standard. They know that if I'm really sort of like thinking things through, I will not say anything at all, and they won't hear from me for several days.
I assume that you just have to personally research these concepts in the script to try to get familiar with them. Mm-hmm. Is that just a whole lot of Google rabbit hole when you get the scripts?
Yeah, it is, and the thing is, like, a lot of concepts you can go down the rabbit hole, and it can get incredibly dense and incredibly detailed. And I think for the sake of playing the scenes and staying with my scene partner, I have to kind of keep it a little simple, keep it a little basic. Because if I don't, I will definitely wind up, just out to lunch while we're working, and I'm not able to land the joke because I'm thinking about, the fact that I read an entire article that said one thing, and then I get to the middle of it and it says, but also the opposite might be true. Like, and that sort of that can really knock a pause in your whole day. And so I try to like keep just keep it to like sort of the basic concepts and just know what I'm talking about and know how to actually, talk about it like as if I know, and so I try to, just try to keep it simple.
What's been the hardest concept to research or get comfortable rattling off?
Oh man. Oh yeah. I think it's the one, the doctrine of double effect is the one that I kind of went down the deepest rabbit hole with. I just sort of, because it was just sort of like and I can't remember exactly what that is even at the moment. I remember just like in the script kind of getting lost in a line that dealt with that, and then so I went and I looked it up, and it was just sort of a weird rabbit hole of ifs and thens and alsos and therefores, and I was just like, okay, well, I gotta simplify this for myself and just keep it to what's on the page.
I know that you were kind of kept in the dark as far as it being about the good place and all of that initially. Is that kind of blindness kept up throughout the show? How much notice do you get of some of the twists?
After that first season, we're kind of, we kind of know generally what what the creators want to do. Like last season, we kind of knew where we were headed with the second season, and we're getting ready to start the third season. We kind of have an idea of where they want to go with the third season, but it's more of a vague general idea. When we get the scripts, we're just as surprised reading it as the audience is watching it. It's just as much fun for us. That first season, I think it was, and rightfully so, Mike probably just needed to know if he could trust us to keep a secret. He didn't know us. We weren't, besides Ted and Kristen, like the rest of us are very much, unknown quantities. And so, I think it was a smart move to go ahead and just kind of, keep it close to the vest until it was absolutely necessary for us to know, in the planning of our character, that this thing was coming up, that the big season 1 twist was coming up. And I think it was consistent with, our characters to be in the dark for so long in that first season. And now it's less consistent with our characters to be in the dark about everything. And so we're a little bit more aware of what's coming our way.
You can get some advance notice on, hey, this week's needles.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't get. The only notice that I got about needles and blood cannon was literally the week before when we got the scripts, and it was like blood splatters all over Chidi and only Chidi, and Chidi comes in with needles all over his face, and I was like, oh well, this is great. They're really putting my fellas to the ringer.
What's been your favorite gag so far on the show?
I think the needles. I think the needles was my favorite gag, just because I had to go as far as to get that one. Like, we got through shooting one day, and they said, like, "Hey, man, we're gonna take you out to this acupuncturist, and they're gonna put 50 needles in your face, just to see if it looks gruesome enough." And so I went out to this acupuncturist, and he's putting 50 needles in my face and laughing while he's doing it, because he knows it's for a joke and it's for fun. And, we took some pictures of it and whatever. And then, they actually decided that the 50 needles in the face didn't look gruesome enough. So they made this prosthetic with literally hundreds of them and put them on me. So I think that because of the effort behind that one, I like that one, and I'm glad that all of that scene stayed in the episode, because it was, many hours of makeup and getting stabbed for that 2-3 minute gag.
I know you've done some theater uh, you've made your Broadway debut in All the Way. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How is it to shift to non-sequential shooting, or all the different strangeness that goes into having a crew of people around you at all times in a TV show versus start to finish, pull the trigger and go theater?
Well, the thing about theater that is, I think, is really, really fun, I think, for the actor is the fact that you are in control of that experience from beginning to end, and you're in the room for several weeks rehearsing, and really talking through each and every moment and trying to figure out what's the best way to tell the story, what's most consistent with what my character does, what's surprising, and then you get on stage and you live that experience for a couple of hours and you're in charge of that. I think the thing about being on camera is that there's so many people that have to do their job so well before you as an actor, your work matters. And that takes some getting used to, because it's not about just what am I feeling, what's the truth of this moment. It's like, well, it's about what I'm feeling and the truth of this moment, and also did the camera catch it? Because if it didn't, it doesn't matter. And so that kind of like straitjackets you into some things that you have to do, which it takes some getting used to. But the other part of that is that you only do, like, at max a few pages, 3-4 at a time, and it's a lot easier to just sort of like get very precise with those bite-sized amounts, and so it's just a different thing, and it's also the way your memory works. It's like I feel like for TV, it's like the stuff goes in very fast. We shoot the scene, and as soon as we're done with the scene, it is out of my brain entirely. Whereas when I'm doing a play, I am that character is who I am for 2 months or 3 months or however long we run the play, and that entire play and that entire journey is just there. And so it takes some getting used to, but they're very different animals, but they're both satisfying in their own ways.
You've got a film, They Remain, that I've seen posters for, but I haven't gotten to watch. That's based on a Laird Barron short story. Have you read much of Laird's work?
No, I've read basically a couple of short stories in that book that short story is in. And they're so strange and so interesting. But yeah, no, I hadn't read a lot.
A writer friend of mine had turned me on to him, and yeah, really out there. Are you generally a horror fan, or what got you drawn to that project?
Well, I thought the script was pretty interesting, and it was really it was sort of unclear exactly what was happening. And I thought that was kind of fun. I mean, I think honestly, my interpretation of the script before starting to work on it was like 100% dead wrong, and sort of like discovering that as we went along was fun. My scene partner in the movie, Rebecca Henderson, I just thought she was like an incredible actress, and so I was like really interested in working with her. And yeah, I mean, like I was, those were the things that really sort of drew me to it. That, and they were going to offer me a job, so like I'll always take one of those.
And you had also been in Patterson, Jim Jarmusch film.
Yeah.
Were you a Jim Jarmusch fan, like in high school? Had you seen Down by Law and stuff like that?
I said, actually, I'd never seen Down by Law. I think Dead Man was the thing that put me on to Jim Jarmusch. And then I watched, and then like Ghost Dog, and there's like a couple of things that I didn't realize were Jim Jarmusch films that I sort of watched in high school and in college. I was I was like sort of like I was a fan, but I didn't know how big a fan I was until I went through the IMDb years ago, and I was like, oh, I had no idea that all these movies that I had been watching and sort of like, these are weird and fun and interesting, and I found out they were all his.
I had a similar experience going through your IMDb. I love the show High Maintenance, and it hadn't clicked that you were Andrew in the episode Geiger.
Oh yeah.
How was it shooting that?
It was fun, actually. It was a really quick shoot. And I think that Katya and Ben, the creators and writers, they have a very strong hold on what it is to be sort of around the age that I am, sort of like, in your 30s and, kind of bopping around and, going through these new experiences. And they really like sort of just, I love the fact that they just sort of like use the guy as sort of like as a conduit to just kind of like look into all these different people's lives, in New York. And it was fun to watch. I mean, it was fun to watch them sort of like on the fly make choices about how these things are going to be played, and giving us freedom to like sort of improvise here and there and just to try things. And it was a very actor friendly set. It was great.
I was astonished with the tone and kind of grace of that show from the start, but I'm equally amazed at this point that it manages to keep that tone correct. I feel like Good Place has a similar thing going on of, every time I think it's going to zig, it zags, and yet gets better and better. We all laughed after season 1 of Good Place that the twist I could have equally ruined the show. That that this could have been like, oh well, there weren't the fun, and instead it just dove off into this amazing other crazy show.
Yeah.
Are you excited about where you might get to go in season 3?
Absolutely. And I, like I said before, it's like we'll see these scripts, week by week. We won't have too much heads up of what's coming, and it'll be like a fun journey for us to go on as we're making it. And the thing is, it's like it's such a, it's such a sci-fi sort of fantasy comedy hybrid that I haven't seen in like on American television, like very much, if at all. And so it's just like the world is just so much bigger than than a lot of the other shows that I see on TV, especially in sitcoms.
Yeah, I really think it seems very sure of what it is, and it just swings for the fences every week.
Yeah, we're allowed to get weird all the time.
You've been absolutely killing it on the show. I can't thank you enough for taking out the time from your day to chat with me about it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for chatting with me.
Well, have a great rest of your afternoon, man.
All right, man. You too.
Bye.
All right.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Permanent Record Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, please go to patreon.com/TVDudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TVDudes, and help us out on iTunes by giving us a 5-star rating and writing a review. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and permanentrcrd.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.